JJ the CPA here. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to the Inspire podcast. I'm here with my great friend Anshul. We have put this together to open a dialogue related to the CPA industry when we're talking about the US designation and how it has expanded into India. Anshul is a great expert on this. Not only is he helping in this area, he's finding bridges to bring things together. Also, somebody that is a native of India. Anshul, how are you this morning?
I'm good, JJ. Always a pleasure talking to you. Recording this, I love our conversations. So hit it. What are we talking about today?
Absolutely. So right now it seems that what's gained some real momentum and the flame has gotten bigger is related to the states that are now considering, is there a way to have a track to becoming a CPA with then only the 120-hour educational requirement? And in most states, I believe my home state of Oklahoma being the same, is that it's not doing away with the 150-hour requirement. It's just now providing another option to becoming a CPA. And my understanding, though, is that it's a trade-off where it's then not a 150-hour requirement and in terms of education, but it is an additional year of work experience. And so somebody now is not going to school for another year. They're now getting another year's worth of work experience, which seems valuable. And what I don't know that a lot of people realize is that with this 150-hour rule, the additional 30 hours in addition to getting a bachelor degree can be in any subject matter. And I don't mean it to be tongue in cheek or to devalue the classes I'm getting ready to state, but they don't have to have anything to do with business or accounting. So literally, somebody could go to the easiest educational system there is and get college credit for basket weaving or golf or tennis or chess or playing the guitar, you name it. So additional 30 hours does not add anything to the number of hours you have to take in business. But with that, my big question to you, Anshul, is that 150-hour rule versus the 120, that may not even be a topic of discussion yet in India. But how is that seen in India with the CPAs and the CPA societies that are in India, the leaders, the educational leaders that you're interacting with every day? How is the 150-hour rule seen in India?
They don't see it as a problem, really, because the energy right now in India is what you saw in the US post World War II. People are just hungry for success. And they're like, well, I want to do something better with what I'm doing. I want to work with a US accounting firm. And what do you need from me to do that? All right, you need a CPA. All right, I'm going to go get it. What do I need to do to get a CPA? I need to take this exam. All right, I'm going to start studying. You need 150 hours of education. All right, I'm going to go get it. So that's sort of the energy in India right now, where they're not optimizing things like, all right, if that requirement was lower, maybe I'd be a CPA sooner. They're just accepting the things the way they are. And they're like, well, I'll do whatever you want me to do, but let me come work for you. Let me show you how I can be valuable. And I think that's why a lot of accounting firms are finding success in India. We often think of price, right? That it's cheaper and all of that. But it's really this energy, this commitment, this work ethic that you'll find there. That's what's happening. And also, a lot of Indians generally are they bet a lot on education. So, a lot of Indians already have a master's. So, I think by default, would meet the 150-hour requirement because they have a 3 or 4 year bachelor's degree and then they have a 2 years master's. So, that's why it's less of a problem in India. It's not even a point of discussion. A lot of students or a lot of accountants now who maybe don't have 150 hours, they would benefit from that too, but it's not controversial. It's not even a topic of discussion. Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. And in India, from my understanding, just what you said, and that was my impression as well, is that in terms of the CPA, the US designation, India already had something in play that is still more respected, in my opinion, for those businesses in India, those citizens in India that need accounting and tax assistance. And that would be the chartered accountant, which is like the grandfather, grandmother, or what the CPA is based on. The chartered accountant has been around a long time. It is just a fact. It is harder to become a chartered accountant compared to being a CPA. It just is. Now, with that being said, when you now have somebody in India that's saying just what you were saying, okay, what's the requirements to help firms in the US? Oh, I need the US designation. So, my big question is this: would those in India even worry about, want to become, or care about getting that US designation CPA if there wasn't even the opportunities that the US is begging for, asking for, need at a necessity more CPAs, and they're having to go to offshore? So let me just rephrase that. Would folks in India even worry about getting the US CPA designation if they weren't trying to have good relations and be qualified to working with US CPA firms?
I mean, not really. As you mentioned, the CA designation that's already in India. It came from the British, and I think it was implemented in the 1850s or something. I
Yep.
don't have the exact date, but like
Yep.
several decades before the CPA designation came into place. The CA designation is extremely respected in India. Some of the reasons are because it's hard to get that designation in the first place. And once you do, you make a really good living. So it's a very coveted, very respected designation in India. The only reason people are now looking at the CPA is because a lot of CPA firms are going to India. And Indians with their work ethic are looking at, all right, how can I differentiate? How can I make myself a better candidate for this firm? And then they're like, okay, I need to get the CPA designation. I'm going to do that. And what I'm hearing from a lot of people in India is it's a lot easier than the CA designation. So that's how they're thinking about it. So I'll share some numbers with you. And these are rough numbers. There's about 800,000 accounting students graduating every year from India in colleges. Out of those, only 40,000, that's about 5%, end up passing the CA exam.
Wow.
Now you have 750,000 people who still want to become accountants. And some of them are going to take the CA exam again. But a lot of them are now thinking, well, the CPA is easier. So why not try that? And for starting salaries, the CPA starting salary is much higher than a CA starting salary. Eventually, you'll make more money with the CA designation, like no doubt about it. So that's how people are looking at it. And they're also looking at EA. They're looking at like other certifications that they can get. So that's why they're now looking at US accounting designations because they want to better their chances of landing a job. And a lot of them couldn't really make it to the India CA couldn't pass that exam. So that's what's driving this shift.
Yeah. Well, and I know right now part of this discussion of the 120 hour versus the 150 hour, for those that are against this additional route to becoming a CPA, the big argument that I see typically is, well, this ruins the credibility. This cheapens the three letters. This is going to be the worst thing that's ever happened to the CPA profession. I don't have an opinion on that. And you talk about, though, here's a group of folks in another country that really are getting paid more, at least initially, being a CPA. It's highly respected from those in the US hiring a CPA now, if in India. And when you now you're in a culture. So for somebody that's right now living in New York or Indiana or California or Washington or Colorado, Orlando, Oklahoma City, pick a state, pick a city. And if you became a chartered accountant, no one would know what that is. No one would value it. And they would say, well, I'm going to hire a CPA. I don't know what a chartered accountant is. I don't want to hire you. I want you to now think, now you're in India. You are trying to gain businesses and individuals in India to now work with your accounting firm. That CPA is maybe not a zero value, but it's probably, well, what is that? And why would I want to hire you? The chartered accountant knows our rules. The chartered accountant's been around this long. So when you have somebody that goes, you know what, hey, I want to do that, I don't see it as something that they've stolen from the US to now serve people in India. And maybe one day it'll be that. I see it as just what we've been talking about. And the only reason I see it that way is factually, that is what's going on. The US CPA designation is only being sought after and obtained to meet the requirements of US CPA firms. So, in terms of the cheapening, I just wonder if that's really something that is a fact, right? Now, the last thing I think that we cover here is just quite frankly, when we're now talking about this offshoring, offshoring typically would mean this: a company takes all of their machinery and moves it offshore and hires workers, employees in another country to work on that machinery, as in the jobs left this city. My backyard no longer has that machinery, no longer has that plant. And therefore, we have a lot of folks that used to work in there now unemployed or looking for another way to make money. What we have in the US factually is this: if somebody posts 10 jobs, maybe three, maybe four, maybe five, if you just don't believe it, maybe six would be filled. It would take some time. Typically, it would be filled maybe not even with somebody in your hometown. And with that being said, if we have four vacancies that can't be filled, even if it's three that cannot be filled, then really what I hear is, if we're not going to use offshore talent, and all that means is talent elsewhere, not in the US, then really what I'm hearing from those that would say, I think that cheapens, is you are going to put more weight on the 765 that you did hire. And where is the quality? The AICPA Code of Professional Conduct is due diligence and integrity. What is the integrity of that work? What is the due care being done on that work when you have the work of 10 people being done by 7? So if we now have folks that are available to fit the 3, the 4, the 5, whatever statistic you're willing to believe, that now actually provides better integrity of work and more due diligence on that work. But what is your take? Because you owning, founding, creating solutions with June 15 Consulting, if you're now in a situation where you are now talking with CPA firms, what is it though that you're hearing? Are you hearing that they're firing and letting go of CPAs to then seek quote unquote cheaper talent, even though it's just the power of the dollar? But what are you hearing directly from CPA firms?
I think so. I'm not an accountant, right? My view outside in is there's a few big firms in this industry. They dominate the headlines. When they do something, it's just assumed that everybody's doing that. Now, 90% of CPA firms are smaller firms, like less than 10, 15 employees. They have no benefit of replacing US employees with offshore employees. That just doesn't make sense, right? Excuse me. That happens in manufacturing, as you mentioned, right? People confuse offshoring with manufacturing offshoring, where if an auto company opens a plant in Mexico or China, they just close down their plant in the US and people are without jobs. That's not how it works with accounting, because there's just not that much scale. Now think about a 10-person firm, right? There's maybe one or two partners. They're doing most of the work. They need somebody for IT. They need somebody for HR. It's a small, well-functioning unit. If they hire accountants in India, they're doing that because they have so much work that they are overworking themselves, their teams, and they don't have enough people to service their clients. That is the reason they're hiring people globally. So for them, why would they fire somebody in the US? That just negates the entire thing where they need more heads. So that's just not how it works with accounting or professional services. Yes, we hear headlines of like manufacturing companies, like some of the bigger accounting firms opening offices in India and reducing their headcount in the US, but that doesn't apply to 99% of accounting firms. No firm that I've spoken to so far has told me that, hey, we want to open an India office and reduce our staff in the US. It's not a business case. That's just not going to be profitable for them. So it's just, if you are thinking of offshoring, educate yourself on what's really going on. Don't worry about what you see on social media, what you're seeing on like the headlines. Talk to firms and you'll see that no one's really doing that. And it's up to you, right? You're the owner of the firm. You decide what to do with a new tool, with a new system. So when you're offshoring and you're against, all of this shipping jobs overseas, just don't do it, right? It's up to you, really. That's my take.
Yeah. Well, and part of what we're trying to do here, Anshul, is open up communication related to this. I don't know that I really am an advocate for offshoring, to just keep using that term, even though it's misunderstood and or not. I don't know that I'm, well, this is ruining the CPA designation or not, or I'm for 150 or I'm for 120. Because the reality of this is we are in the middle of a crisis. And typically, when we're in a crisis, if what we're going to do is point fingers and say, well, that's the problem and that's the problem, well, we're not coming with solutions. And so I think what we're trying to do in this Inspire podcast is think 5 and 10 years down the road and just what's factually happening, what's reality. And that's what you and I are trying to uncover, especially when we're having guests that are from India. So, Anshul, always great to visit with you. And I'm so proud to be doing this podcast with you. Those that are tuning in, feel free to comment. What I would say is, don't necessarily, if I can say it this way, don't just leave your opinion, leave facts. So if you feel that things we've been sharing are factually not correct, please leave what facts you believe are not correct with then correct facts, as well as where we can go, because we would love to present that. We would love to take what you're putting on as a comment and put it into the content to share. So we're looking for more information, again, to open the dialogue. Anshul and I have got some great, positive, exciting things coming up at the end of the year, maybe at the first of the following, where we are going to now be beyond a podcast and in person, not only together, but with those in the US to now open up this dialogue between the US, between India. We will be taking a trip over to India and doing a tour. Anshul, anything in our final comments here, but I'm super excited as we now have a number of episodes. So be sure you're watching the rest of those and staying tuned for ones to come.
Sounds good, JJ. Nothing else to add from my side. I love the thing that you mentioned that let's lead from facts. And if you think we got the facts wrong, please let us know. We want to get it right too. And we just want to have a dialogue. We want to have an educational conversation where you learn something, where we learn something. So let's continue that, and lots of exciting stuff happening here, and we'll continue to share that with you. Thank you everyone for tuning in.
Until next time.